quick. And we, of course, if something else comes up for us, we can address it if there's something else that somebody wants to bring forward. But sorry, just one moment. Okay, so we are being recorded now, just so everybody knows. And that doesn't post anywhere, Tina, right? That's just like if someone requested, they could get a copy of the meeting. Is that my understanding? Is that right?
You know what? They're supposed to be putting them on YouTube. I don't know if they put these on YouTube. I know they put our regular meetings on YouTube,
Yeah.
but they ask that we record any meetings that are posted in LIMS. And I don't, I don't think they post
them.
Oh, you have?
YouTube. Well, because I missed the March one because of work, so I went back and watched it, and I noticed that executive was listed on YouTube if you search for it.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
All right. Well, for any potential future viewers, we are the executive committee of the Minneapolis Arts Commission, and we are happy to serve you. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. We are very receptive and lovely bunch of talented people. Okay, great. So let's get started. We were going to review the open meeting law at Mary's request. It's the first item on our, sorry, that looks kind of goofy in the chat, but the first item on our agenda was to review that. And because she isn't here at the moment, we might just pick that up if she joins us. And if she doesn't, I would just say we'll have to forward it to another time because I'm not an expert about it, and I know that there's just been a lot of changes, which is why she wanted to kind of give us just a heads up about. But the only thing I can say about it is that we all know that we're really strict about the reply all stuff because we start to kind of get into a meeting situation if there's too much dialogue happening between all of the commissioners, which is totally fair and makes sense that that's not transparent. But we find our workarounds, right? And our ALTs and our smaller committees are welcome to meet still and get together. And those particular meetings don't have to be recorded as far as I am aware, at least at this moment in time. So that's sort of what I know. And then of course, Tina's been a really great steward in helping us figure out how to do our larger meetings, and take roll and do the call whenever I have a motion and all that kind of stuff. So do you want to add anything, Tina, or?
No, not really. I'm not sure what Mary was going to speak about. I was just checking my email to see if she emailed me and I didn't see anything. I will send her an email just to see if she's going to join us.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. All right. Any questions about that? Again, like Mary might have something to see. Okay. And then Lana has been so generous with her time and her thought leadership and her dialogue with Gulgoon and with Danielle and her council members and helping us like really reach out to our council members and have the information we need. I really got to hand it to you, Lana. You have done such a great job. And now, of course, I know, super snaps. She drafted a letter for us based on, and this is like, you'll read the letter and it's kind of simple and really to the point, and it kind of just lists like, here's what we feel strongly about and why we support the initiative, and it brings up some of the issues. But I can tell you that the simple talking points within that letter came out of a ton of dialogue, a lot of dialogue, both with council members, amongst ourselves. Oh, and Danielle's joining. Hi, Danielle. I just getting her sound and stuff.
Hello.
Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
It's great to see you all.
We were just, I was just moving into the second item on our agenda, which was the letter that we are putting together to support advancing the formal adoption of the Office of Art and Culture. So anyway, Lana does have a draft of this that she shared this afternoon, and I was just kind of going into this diatribe, thanking her for all the work that she's put into this, but also like that the letter seems really simplified because it's kind of like we, want to support this, and these are the reasons why, but that the process to get to this point has not been simple, and it's been really a ton of meetings and a lot of dialogue. And so I feel really good about it. I think that I might follow up, Lana, with some edits just to kind of maybe add, and you can push back on this, but add like, this is who we are, even though I know our council members sort of know who the MAC is. We've also just recognized through our conversations that there has been some just some confusion about our role and about like, kind of who we are. So I think it might be nice in the letter to just say, we are this number of individuals who are appointed to the Arts Commission, and we represent, arts administrators, lay people, and artists that have, deep connections in the community. So I think it might just, and Lana, I would love to take this offline if that works for you, to just see what you think about that. Does that sound okay? Oops, you're muted. That's okay.
Surely. I left a little wiggle room in the letter too, so we would have room for any conversations we have here.
Mm-hmm. And then if it's okay, Danielle, could I ask you just a quick question that's maybe it's a little bit tangential, just a titch, but I found out a lot about the American Rescue Plan dollars today. And I know that the Department of Treasury issued the numbers of what that's going to look like in 21 different municipalities across the state of Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And so this really is really interesting, because I think one of the things that we've been kind of belly aching about is timing, is about the timing of this initiative. And I think for the most part, we're saying, like, if the time isn't now, when is it? And actually in conversations with some new commissioners, they said, oh, we've been talking about this for such and such amount of decades. Yeah. So and we can look to documentation that shows that. But I'm also curious if you may not have any insight on this, and if that's the case, no problem. But I just wondered, even with the stabilization proposal that's coming and the numbers that have been attached to it, that doesn't necessarily mean that there couldn't be any other funding for the arts out of the different pockets of resources that are coming, right? So it's not like, I guess I just want to make sure that everyone understands that this request is not a one and done. Like, it's a request to stabilize our arts across the enterprise in all the ways that we've talked about this at length. But that there will be other ways that art and artists are going to show up to aid and lend aid to recovery, revitalization efforts, and other things that this money will, this American Rescue Plan specifically, and COVID recovery type funding can go towards. So just to make sure that the commission is clear about that. Is that your understanding as well, Danielle, or do you have anything to share?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to answer your question. So if I don't, let me know. So yeah, when we're talking about the creation of the department, we're talking about an ongoing funding source that is coming from the enterprise in some way, shape, or form, right? Either in general fund dollars or by some like mechanism, like taxes or something that we could tap into on a consistent basis. The American Rescue funding is another source of funding that that we can ask for to support arts, and which we intend to do to support our artist community. And so, we're subtracting it in our heads from it supporting the department, simply because it is kind of a one-time funding source that can be you have 4 years to spend it, but we don't think that the foundation for an arts department should be based on one-time funding, right? That's kind of what
the whole foundation of this whole conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and that's what we've been struggling with consistently for our individual programs that have been decentralized in the city for a long time, and we're like, that needs to stop. And so it is another source of funding to support arts and the artist community within the city of Minneapolis.
That's great. And I think that the fact that is true is actually going to be enormously helpful, because recovery and revitalization is hopefully a temporary situation for us, right? Like, it's not an ongoing, right? Okay, so it's nice to be able to say, we want a commitment for arts funding and stabilization and the centralization of our arts at the city that's going to be sustained over time. We also recognize that the council has brought up a lot of very valid concerns that they wish to get money to artists quicker, sooner, more directly. And from a recovery standpoint, that should be possible. So these should both not be mutually exclusive. We should be able to advocate for all of these things to be prioritized.
I think that internally, that's how we see it.
I think, and that was kind of my interpretation as well. Just but I took the art train education from Springboard for the Arts. It was a 3-hour session about how the arts are going to be kind of working in, like, we know, with, public safety, health and awareness, there's, the arts totally across a lot of sectors. So anyway, that's great. Does anybody want to make any comments, have any questions or feedback that they want to share just about us presenting this to the MAC next week and kind of coming together around our message, and then also us potentially participating in the public hearing? Anybody want to just insecurities? I just whatever you're thinking about. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I think we should. I love the letter, Lana, and so I think we should present the letter. I think we should also present what was discussed at the, to get to this public comment. So I'm taking it that the council members had a discussion. So any feedback from that discussion, was it like, controversial, or everyone like, oh my goodness, this is the greatest idea ever, or somewhere in between? Just kind of giving some flavor for the conversation, because I know, Danielle, you had spoke at the last time we met, kind of setting it up, just giving them that continuity of this is how it went and here are the next steps. But it's good, all good stuff. I think everyone will be excited.
I will just say that I think everyone was a little bit surprised that the vote was unanimous. We didn't know. We weren't able to do a full roll call of what everyone's vote was going to be because we weren't able to reach every single council member. So that was very encouraging, I think, for all of us to see. I think that if you watch the POGO conversations, that there were some concerns, right? And that's what, why, even with the initial presentation, it was like, there was, council members had a lot to say about what they thought about it and the questions they had and the concerns they had. So we didn't know what way they were going to swing, some of them, and if they were going to just try to stop it in its tracks or let it have life and get community comments. So that's my takeaway, was just like, okay, so I feel like it was a comment on like, we want to support the arts. We want to be at least seen as supportive enough that we agree that this needs some attention. But I think now the next step will be maybe a little bit more difficult, obviously, right? To be like, okay, well, if that's the case, then where are we at with this? And so that's where Lana and like the canvassing of like having the one-on-one conversations with the council members. And Jeff and Lana, why don't you go ahead and say like kind of what some of the concerns were and how we sort of started to balance it?
Sure, and thank you for bringing that up, Jeff, too, because I think that would be a good point to frame in the letter. So that's, some of the feedback that we're taking away from exec. We'll move into the draft of the letter that then we'll share with Danielle and Golgoon, too, for further feedback before we talk about it at the full meeting. But, we reviewed the POGO presentation and also the comments from council members, and then I took some of those questions that I heard, questions that we had from exec, and presented them to the team and got some really nice responses that were well thought out, that gave a lot of supportive information. It really just empowered me to have better conversations with our council members, to be able to be knowledgeable about answering those questions and also have, some sort of cohesion in the message, I think is really important. I think that's what centralization really affords us, is having that communication. And for me, that's one thing that I feel is really strong about, our current back and forth dialogue has really improved. For MAC to be like, have an open door and have, an ear, is something that I think artists will benefit from too, if the efforts move forward. So yes, we heard the questions from the POGO presentation. Yes, we brought them back to both the MAC team and the broader whole, and we got some good responses. And now we feel comfortable as a commission to be able to draft a proposal for this letter of support. So I think that that frame helps me be in support of the movement. And what I wanted today for the conversation was to just take away a temperature if there's anything else that people feel passionately should be included in our support letter. So I left some room, some wiggle for that. So thank you. So far I've heard, Joan, I heard you mention framing MAC as a commission and where we're coming from a little bit more in the letter. Jeff, thank you. I heard from you maybe focusing a little bit more on how we came to the conversation and understanding it. I mean, I'm assuming our council members know, since we've been canvassing and talking with them, that we are sitting in on those meetings, we are listening, and we are taking both our own questions to heart as well as theirs. So I think by addressing this with a letter, it shows that we have considered that as a whole and that we feel really positive moving forward in recommending this.
Yep.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And also too, just like, I mean, this is an aside, between us, but just like these types of processes that have that, here's, a proposal, and us moving through it, doing due diligence with our council members and with our commission is just strengthening us. We have strengthened relationships with our council members because of it. We have strengthened our relationship with our director of strategic initiatives because of it. You know what I mean? So I'm seeing like a lot of really positive things come from this whole process for our commission as a whole. And even as I had a one-on-one with one of our new commissioners who has this really tremendous background in policy, which is going to be nice. She was so appreciative to hear like how this has just been strengthening our commission and really been helping us have a better relationship with the city coordinator's office and, all of the people that we're working with alongside. So it's a nice story to tell thus far, and we will keep it moving. So thanks, Lana. And also too, like if I think Lana is really open to, I know you're open to any further suggestions if someone thinks of something. I think we want to have like our draft mostly polished and buttoned by our general meeting. Am I right, Lana? Like that's the plan? Yeah. Okay. And then Mary, you might be able to help with this too. We want to adopt the letter. We've done this a few times before. Or Tina, can we share the letter at the meeting? Is there a certain time allotment that we have to be mindful of for the letter to approve it formally? Does it have to be included in a pre-read like by tomorrow, for example?
No, you should, the letter should go out with the agenda in advance. It would be good if Tina could put it as an attachment in limbs.
Okay.
The issue you guys run into with letters in a meeting is that people like to make changes to letters in a meeting, and then you're not sure on what you're voting on because the changes get so complicated that the text is not in front of you that you're voting on. So it might be good if people could share with Lana individually in an email a list of revisions or their revisions, so Lana could come with a drafted text that people had already given her input on for approval, because you've done letters before and it's just like eventually you always end up saying exec will rewrite the letter and sign it on behalf of the commission.
Actually, we do not get edits in our general meetings. We get we've got a pretty supportive bunch, although there's been some turnover, so that may not be always the case or in every situation, but we have come to the commission with letters in the past and we have been able to move them forward without further edits. However, I don't think that's the way we want to work necessarily. I think input is nice and engages people. So how does this sound for like an operationalizing this process really quickly? How about if everybody here, and I'll do this too, could get whatever edits they want to Lana by noon tomorrow, and then Lana, you can maybe get that out by the end of the day. I think our deadline for and tell me, Lana, if I'm pushing you too hard or if that's too much for what your day holds. Okay. And then Tina, I know you need all of your materials by the end of the day Thursday. Is that right? For limbs?
I usually post it by Friday afternoon. So like noon on Friday would be fine even.
Okay. So, okay. I'm sorry that I have to kind of think this out loud so that I don't mess it up. But so exec edits by noon tomorrow, Wednesday. Full Mac edits by end of day Thursday. And I'm only making that type timeline because we won't get a lot, but at least that gives people a chance. And then to Tina with the agenda by noon Friday. And then we should be able to hit all of our deadlines and still have a little bit of time for participation. Does that sound okay, everybody? Yeah, go team. Okay, great. All right, that sounds great. And I don't have anything else. Does anybody have anything else? Danielle, did you have anything else for us that you wanted us to be aware of, or?
No, I just want to, on behalf of the staff and myself and all of us who've worked so hard on it, I can't thank you enough for being supportive and giving your input. And we'll be asking for more of your input as we're going to reach out to more community on the draft of the ordinance. We'll have a draft that will be submitted, but we have time in between there to get some feedback and before the public hearing. So like I said, I just really thank you for your questions and your canvassing and your support. It's unbelievable, quite frankly, and just really thankful.
Yeah, and this is kind of what we were thirsty for. We were like, put us in, coach, like we want to help our community.
Well, we got a ton of stuff you can do.
That's great. It's helpful. And Mary, you two have been, everybody's been really, I think, really been tremendous considering everything we're still navigating as a community. So that's great. And then as far as the public hearing is concerned, Mary, thank you for, making sure that we're aware of it and when it's happening and even sending out a calendar invite. That's been so helpful. I don't know if this group wants to comment about or wants to discuss about, like, do we want to select an ambassador to speak on behalf of the Minneapolis Arts Commission? Do several of us want to comment? Is there a better strategy for us to consider? I'm open to any thoughts about this. So you are too, clearly. Okay.
I think there's also the option of not just speaking on behalf of MAP, but I think you could also come up with some ideas of other key people that you think the council should hear from on this. I'm sure that the coordinator's office is thinking strategically about who might speak, and the council members might be thinking strategically about who might speak. But I'm wondering if you can think of a constituency that you think might be impacted by this ordinance that you think should really be visible at the public meeting, both because you think the council should hear from them, and also because they might be somebody who would really support your own message. I think that might be a good idea.
That's such good advice.
I completely agree with Mary. I think that would be a great idea.
Would this be something that I'm always thinking of the how to? So like, could this be like a shared doc of like who wants to speak, what hat they might be interested in wearing? Because I think that we can like support them and give them the information they need and help them if they feel they need it. Not just commissioners, but also like maybe there are some community members that might, want to speak to the fact that they used to live in Seattle and they had, or whatever, there's just like so many different like pieces of the narrative that someone could pick up and champion. I don't know if this
also,
is like,
just who should the council be listening to, in your opinion?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're listening to their constituents, but who should they really be listening to and paying attention to? Who's an important community voice?
Mm-hmm.
This is an opportunity to think of making a person or an institution more visible to the council.
I know, my brain instantly goes to our youth leaders, our arts youth leaders, but I also just think that trying to catch them up to it and understand it might be a little bit challenging. So I don't want to exploit anyone, of course, but I'm like, you're an up and coming arts leader and you need to know that your city is going to be with you for the journey, right? Let's give that some thought and allow people to, submit maybe their suggestions.
I'm out of the loop on when the public
On the
hearing is.
So far, we, Mary, I'm sorry, what did you say?
It's on the 16th of June.
Yep.
16th of June.
Yeah. If for some reason that changes, we'll let you know, but that's the time frame that we're working under.
Randy,
Okay.
I'll send you the invite out.
Can't really hear you, Mary. Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh. I'll send you the invite I sent out.
Oh, good. Thank you. I would love that.
So Lana, do you mind adding, when you give your update about this on Wednesday, do you mind just saying, like, we are also trying to strategize about the public hearing, and if you have ideas about who might be a good candidate in the community that would want to support, we want to support you in any way, like maybe just throw it out. Does that sound okay? Okay.
Maybe it's helpful if you think about, if you know about, when we think about our strategy, we think about those large and small arts organizations within Minneapolis, trying to kind of hit on every ward. We also think about those organizations that can, or even individuals who can tell the story of how arts has been impacted because of the pandemic, and really understanding why we're supporting stabilization of arts within the city and intentional investment. And also we think about what other people, they can be individuals, and organizations who can talk about the different areas of how art intersects with the values that the city, the priorities that the city says it has, such as economic development, public safety, health, those things. And so getting an arts leader, like I said, whether it's an individual or an organization, who can really talk about how arts contributes to those things and how we, by stabilizing arts, can help that to grow, that's how we kind of think about and strategizing and letting people, organizations, know about what's happening.
Mm-hmm. That's helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very helpful.
It'd be really interesting to have someone who's outside of the art sector give a plug too, that like is maybe in one of those like aligning or abutting sectors or intersections, that like having someone who speaks to public safety and saying, like, when we get young people doing, arts programming, blah, 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 right? Like that could be really interesting, because those are, I think the funding, like just a personal tale, the funding that I've received more recently to support the arts has not been arts funding. And now that's happening more and more. So it just is a metric to tell you that, like, it's public safety, it's health and wellness, it's, all that stuff. So awesome. Thanks, you guys. I think we're in a really good spot, and I'm kind of glad that the public comment moved out a little bit. I think that's going to afford us a little bit of time to kind of get a plan together around who we're going to support to speak and our approach. So anybody else want to ask any questions, have any comments? Want to ask Danielle anything? Okay. Great. Well, thank you. And thanks for coming tonight, Danielle. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you all. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Okay. Awesome. All right. The next item on, Mary, we did skip over the open meeting law. We're kind of running short on time a little bit. I did talk about the replying all, the, some of the basics, but was there something specifically you wanted to cover, and could it wait until our next meeting, or is it pressing?
No, we can do it the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so the next item is just the updates about vacancies and the, kind of where we're at we've got to still have a tremendous amount of vacancies. So Commissioner Henry and Commissioner Kevorkian officially resigned. I think you all knew about Commissioner Henry. You maybe didn't know about Kevorkian, but
No, that's so sad.
I know it's really
Big
unfortunate.
loss. Big loss.
It really is. But understandably, I mean, I think I will say that I want to believe that it's almost more so circumstances outside of the commission itself than really. So I don't want anyone to like internalize that somehow we're not doing a good job or engaging our commissioners. I think we're in a cool place right now with the commission, in my opinion. It's a lot more interesting right now than it has been in many months. So I'm a little bit re-engaged, and I hope others are feeling that way as well. But just life is life, and these are very difficult and intense times. So everybody gets some grace about what they can and cannot do and fit into their life. So your time is all really valued as well. Just so.
Oh, Joan, we lost you. We lost
Back.
you. You're back.
Yes.
I was thanking you all for your time.
Conveniently
I'm going to
unmute.
shut off
No,
my
I'm just
camera.
kidding.
Hang on. Okay, so can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Lucy Thompson is joining the commission, and she is
So excited.
wonderful. Wonderful. I met with her one-on-one. We talked about kind of the history of, as far as from my vantage point, my tenure. As you may or may not know, Lucy brings a lifetime of policy experience with her, working for St. Paul and Minneapolis, and has a good relationship with Mary, and is just a really talented person that is going to be, I think, wonderful. She is interested in a seat on executive, which is exciting that she's ready to make the jump straight out of the gate. I would love to be able to seat her on our exec committee. I think we could use someone with her just wealth of knowledge and just the ins and outs of governance. So I wonder if it would be okay to get a vote about that, or if you all feel like you want to meet her first. It's understandable. I don't know. Any thoughts?
I've met her. I interviewed her, and I would agree that she should definitely, we should utilize her expertise on this committee.
Yeah. She also intends on joining the policy ALT, so it's going to be very nice to have her. Yeah. Jeff or Lana, any thoughts about Lucy joining exec? Would you feel more comfortable to have it one exchange with her before we have her join our group?
It'd be nice to have one full meeting, but the more the merrier. I think that's very exciting that she wants to jump in.
Yeah, I'm right there with Lana.
Okay, so why don't we meet her next Wednesday, and then we'll get her on board for our next meeting, and that'll be fine. Okay, unless for some reason something comes up, you certainly can reach out to me, of course. All right, and then
sorry, one item. Do we need to formally nominate her for exec at our next full meeting in order for her to join the next executive meeting?
We do have to. You're right. We would have to. It would delay it by a month, so she wouldn't be able to join us at our next executive.
She could join. She just couldn't vote, right? Because anybody can join our meeting. It's an open meeting, right?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
Because that's what happened. And I know that because it happened to me, because I was joining your meetings before I was formally on the committee.
That's great. Tina, if you don't mind, as an action step, just making sure that Lucy's invited to the next exec meeting.
Okay, yes.
But we'll wait to move her forward until then. Okay, thank you all for figuring that out. And then the next item is just, we still have a lot of vacancies, and what are we, it almost seems like one of our biggest and best opportunities is the fact that we have this tremendous slate waiting to be filled, but we continue to attract a constituent or commissioner that oftentimes doesn't live or work in Minneapolis. And so we've determined that we don't feel comfortable seating people that don't have some vested interest in the city that they can speak to.
So we kind of talked about that a little bit. I might be jumping ahead, but we kind of talked about that a little bit in our access and engagement catch up that we had this morning. Because I saw that was on our work plan, and we kind of thought about incorporating the list of organization and artists that we would like to. Well, originally we were going to hold our meetings at their location, but then now we started to try to invite them into our Zoom or our team meetings. Maybe getting them involved as well and trying to get a representative from their community to come and apply to become a commissioner. I don't know. That's one pipeline we could try to feed from, because we do want to hear their voices. So trying to get them, inviting them in to maybe do a little 15-minute chat in our basic meetings every month, but then also to forge a relationship to maybe find more people in their world to come into ours and to be a commissioner. It was just one of our thoughts that we had.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that it's, engaging people and understanding what it is that we do, hopefully would then lend itself to, someone wanting to be involved. And so inviting someone to give us a presentation and courting them, if you will, as like a constituent that's important, to us. That's a great strategy. I think that's great, Mandy, and I'm glad you guys are thinking about it. So I would say, Mandy, you need to say the word when you want us to reserve some time on our agenda for whoever it is or whatever organization it is next.
We talked about that too.
Okay, good.
We're just jumping right into the access engagement update. Is that what's happening right now?
That is what's happening, but I'm here for it. Let's do it.
I'm pushing it right through. It's kind of connected, so it makes sense.
It is.
But Jeff was on the call as well, so he can jump in too. But we thought about trying the Rojo Collective again, since they weren't able to come in December, and we wanted to know what you guys thought about doing that for June.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with that, tapping into their community of people to see if they have somebody that they would want to, nominate or push to kind of jump onto the board or onto the commission with us too would be great.
That sounds really great. Does everyone else feel good about that? I say we green light that for June for sure.
Yeah. I'll be reaching out this week, and I'll through emails. I'll let you know kind of what can they make that date, and are they receptive? And in that conversation, I'll also bring up the potential for them to at least start to think about one of their members being part of the commission.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. That's, I think, a really great and practical strategy. And Rojo is someone that is a group that we've been talking about for quite some time now, and I know has had a lot of interaction with the city as well, like as artists. So I think they're a great group to tap right now. Awesome. Okay. I know that Ahava was working on Perpich. I was working on Minneapolis College. And just was able to elicit the dean applying, which I was so grateful for, but I was like, that's not what we were after.
So yeah, that was one of the follow-up questions I had for you from the Access and Engagement committee, is where you stand in that relationship since she applied and we didn't invite her. Do you still have that relationship?
Oh, for sure. We work closely all the time. We have a gallery together in City Center. So there's actually a reception. There's actually a reception happening right now that I'm missing of their students' work in that gallery in City Center. So there's a lot of students. There's a lot of faculty. I explained to her, I was just like, there's only like so many people from certain wards and so many people that represent certain demographics that we have to prioritize diversity, equity, inclusion. And we just can't keep accepting people that don't have some level of representation that's diverse. And she was very graceful and lovely.
So with that said, do you want us to forge a relationship with her from the access engagement perspective to help with this and take it off your plate? Because I know her and Lisa have a relationship too, right? So maybe she could become our point of contact to try to push stuff forward to bring that into the Access and Engagement Committee.
Yeah, I mean,
I know you have a lot on your plate.
if Lisa wants to pick that up, I would be all for it. I think it would be a little less awkward for her to like go back. Right.
Yes.
Thank you for considering that. I appreciate it. Because honestly, the college is really a wellspring of talent, and we should be able to get, like, even if the faculty, to Jeff's point earlier, like when we talked about this, like there's also some really great faculty that have good representation and could be really strong on the commission. So thank you for offering that. And
awesome. All right, I will give that update then to the committee after this, so that she can kind of reach out. Is there anything that she needs to know that's applicable to what you guys had been talking about prior to?
No, Lisa was part of the conversation. So
that's what I thought. That's what she was wondering what happened with her application, and I had to tell her. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Whoops.
No, she understood after we explained it. She understood, so it was all good. But as long as so I'll just talk about maybe having her become our point of contact and see if we can get some, because not only could we feed the commission and possible youth commissioners, but we could also help with the access and engagement part of what we're trying to do as a committee. So I think that's a good contact to bring together. So
sounds excellent.
Awesome.
There also is opportunity at Fair High School, but I work with Fair all the time as well in downtown, but more to come about that. I think that might come later. And then we also, I have a 5 to 10 on Hennepin artist cohort that's like youth from Culture Club that are downtown, kids and artists and creatives that are hanging out downtown. So as that cohort develops more, I might, try to see if there's some leadership within it that might be interested. So I'll keep working the angles I have as well.
I had a question. Has the city said anything yet on in-person meetings? And as I know, the government made some changes. Has the city had a response on that, or some timing? So as we think about as a committee, like in the fall, could we go somewhere? Could we have a meeting at at a location? Just curious. I don't know, Mary, if Tina, you know anything on that?
The city is following the governor's recommendations as to how many people can gather at a time. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And also, so I'm not sure on how many people can gather at a time indoors. But whatever the governor's current guidelines are, I think we could do. There could also be outdoor meetings in the summer too, if people didn't want to gather inside. Block clubs do it all the time. So
yeah,
I think that to meet in the parking lot of an arts organization could be an option, right? And then at some point we can, I was at a meeting here in this building today that had 25 people in it, and we were all around a table that was 6 feet apart. So I think that could be an option as well.
Okay. Thank
That
you.
might be a fun thing to maybe plan for August.
Yeah.
For our August meeting as an access and engagement, I can bring it if you guys are okay with me bringing it to them.
Please do.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Agreed. It might be hot, but yay.
And also too, if it's, I know that we want to get out to our BIPOC-led organizations, and I think it's really important for us to prioritize that. But if for any reason we are not able to find a partner that has the capacity to host, just know that the rooftop at Hennepin Theater Trust is available to the Arts Commission for meeting. And it is really fun. It's got a great view, and that's nice.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's going to be overrun by young people all summer long. The Fair High School's moving in for their summer camps, and I've got Culture Club moving it. We're moving all these kids in. It's really delightful, but it's also kind of hilarious. Definitely not what leadership envisioned about our event center, but it's all good. It's all good. Anyway, okay. So let's see. we were just talking about applications and onboarding, and we moved into access updates, which is fine. We can jump around a little bit. Was there anything else in the access updates, though, as long as we're doing that you wanted to share?
I had
I
a
think
question.
those were
Joan.
the three
Oh, go ahead.
things.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question, Joan. So we have received a couple of applications for Max. So I don't know how the interview panel wants to, if you want me to just set up something, you guys can review those, or.
I think I owe you an email, Tina.
Okay. Okay.
I know you're probably gonna roll your eyes, but could you send me the applications in one email to Mandy and I?
Oh, yes, definitely.
So it's just
And
a
Mari, isn't Mari on our committee too now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, I will do that. And no worries, Joan. They come in so random, and yeah, so that's no problem.
You're so nice. Thank you. You could just be like, just respond to your emails, lady. Sorry. But yeah, that'll be helpful. Great. Okay, cool. And so that'll be good. Maybe there's somebody in there. Honestly, I haven't had a chance to look, so I don't even know. But let's keep pushing, because slowly we really are getting good people. Like, even though it's happening much slower than we wish for, I'm really happy with who's coming in. So that's good, at least. Okay, so the next item, we have to formally move Commissioner Mansfield from artist to commissioner seat on our public art advisory panel. With Commissioner Kevorkian leaving, we want to just position Commissioner Mansfield like appropriately, even as she identifies as an artist. Her commission seat on the committee is the more appropriate seat for her to make room for another artist in the community. Does that make sense? So can I get a motion to move Commissioner Mansfield from artist to commissioner seat on the public art advisory panel? I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that formality.
This means we now need an artist on the public art advisory panel.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the past, the commission and the public art advisory panel have nominated people to the executive committee. We desperately need diversity on the public art advisory panel. I think we should maybe put this vacancy on the Arts Commission agenda and just briefly announce that there's an opening and tell people how to nominate. Really desperately need an artist. Know anybody? Usually we don't ask people who apply for public art commissions to be in those slots, because it's really not appropriate for them to apply and be on the panel. But any thoughts you have, artists you want to recruit, people that would bring diverse perspectives to the panel?
Yeah, we should definitely put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
And then, Joan, also speaking of the agenda, have we reviewed the agenda yet?
Not yet. That's the next thing we need to do. I think we're going to have to, unless anybody has anything significant, I think we can skip item number 7 on our agenda with work plan updates, because we've addressed access. We've talked pretty extensively about policy. We are exec and open seats is kind of an issue that we're trying to deal with. And then as far as public art is concerned, I could talk for an entire hour about the updates for the public art panel, but we just don't have the time. So I think I have to just save my updates until another time, if that's okay with everybody.
I'm going to pull the portable collection item, which will save you some time, because I think the panel didn't really make a firm recommendation. They sent the consultants back to do some additional work, which was good.
Okay.
So, Joan, I'm struggling with Curry Park being on the agenda, because the artist has come back to me and said that they would prefer to just do a detailed design. issue was their design was so conceptual. It was just a really raw sketch with a lot of ideas about what would be included. And then our plan was to have a review process that was Commissioner Mansfield and myself reviewing the concept as it evolved. And the artist came back and said, why don't I just do a detailed sketch? And so I'm kind of thinking we should just bring the detailed sketch back next month.
Okay.
And not go through that. He doesn't want to go through, a lot of meetings about it. So he's going to do a detailed sketch. And he's also done a number of things that we requested that he do anyways. He's hired Marlene and Miles to advise on the Dakota. He's gotten permission from the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe for his concept on on Turtle Island. He's done a lot of it. So,
Sounds good. I just pulled it. Done and done. You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Are we ready to just talk about this agenda and get it approved so that we can, or whatever, make our updates? I know that we might add a little bit too, but
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. All right.
Deanna.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I dropped it in the chat as well, just so in case that's easier. But so basically, I pulled. Do you want to pull the portable collection from the consent, Mary?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I just want to pull it all together. Yes.
Done and done. All right. So we are going to welcome Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner introductions, blah, 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 regular stuff. We've got one item on the consent agenda, the utility box projects. And then we have our discussion, the adoption of the art stabilization proposal and letter adoption, right? And that's actually Commissioner Aylesworth, correct? Does that look good to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to, Lana, do you want me to welcome Lucy since I've been talking to her so much?
If you know her and have a more personal relationship, I think that seems appropriate.
All right. Okay. I just sometimes like to hand stuff off just because it makes it more interesting than me yabbering as much as I do. But I will, or no, Mary, do you want to introduce her?
Me?
Yeah. Yeah. No?
I think it's more appropriate for somebody who nominated her to. I mean, I know her. I have a great deal of respect for her.
Okay. We'll leave it. All right. So, so anyway, the discussion portion, we have the item number 1, which is the formal adoption of the art stabilization proposal and letter. And Commissioner Aylesworth, you're okay with taking that item?
Sure thing.
Thank you so much. Okay, then the second item is the updates with the vacancies, and I think we need to add the public art advisory panel, right?
I'm assuming their extension is past April 31st.
Yes, it is. Thank you for that catch.
Sure.
Do you want to do the vacancies updates, Mandy?
Besides that, we don't have anybody left on our commission. Is that all I have to say, really?
Ouch.
There's 5 of us. Yay. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, I mean, with that said, would that tie into how we were just talking about trying to find arts organizations to be a pipeline as well as the schools? Is that all part of that conversation, or are you just talking about who's empty?
I think that we should put it in there.
Okay.
Access updates regarding cultivation. Is that a good way to say it?
That's good.
Does that look okay? And then the seat that's available on the public art advisory panel. Is that okay?
Specifically for artists that aren't on the commission, right? That's what we're asking for, Mary?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, and then for work plan updates, I have myself for exec, that we have 2 at-large positions and a vice chair position that are available. Also, Commissioner Mansfield had asked me to bring up the idea of a BIPOC subcommittee, like its own ALT. I don't know if this is the place to discuss that, but I'm happy to introduce it as an opportunity that we can advance. I don't know. I'm not really sure if it's appropriate for this larger meeting or if it's something that we talk about maybe at our next exec meeting and ask Commissioner Mansfield to join us potentially. Would that make more sense?
Ooh. I would say because of time and everything you're going through, that might be a better option. And also maybe, I don't want to table it per se, but until we have more commissioners to really talk about it and what that would look like, I'm not sure.
It might just kind of fall flat. The idea is that if our commissioners who represent communities of color could have their own safe space without commissioners who are white identifying, that could be of value to create a set of recommendations potentially for not only the commission, but just processes and stuff like that. I mean, really create their own agenda and their own action items, but that's sort of that's the idea that she was working with. So could I invite her to our next exec meeting to talk about it with us?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then access policy.
Maybe Commissioner Swinton wants to do the access since I'm doing the vacancy.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, yeah, I can do it. But I like when Joan yammers on. I just want to put her on the record there. She can talk through the whole meeting. No, yeah, no, I'm just joking. Yes, yes, I can do that.
All right, awesome. And then Commissioner Aylesworth, you will have given so much information at the top of the meeting, but if you want to add anything, I just want to give you that opportunity with the work plan updates. Is that okay?
Sure, that's fine. I think the formal adoption of the letter is currently what we're working on. So in interest of time, that's the next steps, and then preparation for the public hearing, which seems to be all above. So I'm wondering if I should save the public hearing information for this category. There we go. Great.
That looks good. Okay, cool. And then the public art. Wait, I don't know. This is not looking right. Sorry. I'll fix it. Okay.
Hey everyone, I have to jump off. I have a hard stop at 6, but
I
yeah.
didn't realize I was going over. I think
no problem.
Thank you,
Thank
Jeff.
you. I'll talk to you guys next week.
Sounds good. We're at the end, so we good? And Lana, do you want to forward, or anybody do your edits by noon tomorrow to Lana? Then Lana, if you want to send it out to the full commission by end of day Thursday, and then get it back to Tina by noon. I'll clean up this agenda, but I think we're good to go. Sorry to keep you over, you guys.
Oh,
Sounds good.
Great. So much for your help tonight.
Thank you.
It was wonderful to see you all. Thank you.
All right, see ya.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.